All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're totally zeroing in on mastering Habit 3, put first things first, pulling straight from Stephen Covey's legendary framework. Now, this builds perfectly on our journey through the private victory phase. To really get Habit 3, we kind of need to look at what came before it, right? We've already tackled Habit 1, being proactive. That was all about owning your circle of influence and really mastering that split-second space between a stimulus and your response. Then we looked at Habit 2, beginning with the end in mind. That's the habit of mental creation, writing out your personal mission statement and figuring out what true personal leadership looks like for you. Well, Habit 3 is where we take all that brilliant mental creation and put it into physical action. It's literally where the rubber meets the road.
So ask yourself, are you managing your time or is time managing you? It's a super simple question, but man, for most of us, it stings a little bit. We've all felt the friction of a poorly managed, completely reactive schedule. You know the exact feeling. You're running from crisis to crisis, constantly putting out fires all day, and you end the day completely exhausted, yet somehow feeling like you got absolutely nothing of real value done. It's the worst. But that is exactly what we're going to fix today using the principles of personal management.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. First, the time management shift. Second, mastering quadrant 2. Third, the 4 steps to weekly organizing. Fourth, the power of delegation. And finally, number 5, stewardship in action.
Okay, part 1, the time management shift. To really understand where we're headed, we need to trace how time management has actually evolved over the years. And honestly, why the old ways just aren't cutting it for you anymore. The first 3 generations of time management, they were completely obsessed with things and time. Generation 1 gave us those simple checklists. Generation 2 brought in calendars and appointments. Then Generation 3 introduced prioritization and daily planning. But here's the catch. Generation 3 can actually make you way too rigid. It's completely focused on efficiency. Imagine hyper-scheduling every single minute of your day for maximum output, but because of that, you completely blow off a close friend who unexpectedly needs your help. That right there is the efficiency trap. Generation 4, which is the heart of Habit 3, flips the script. It's principle-centered. It recognizes that people are fundamentally more important than things. It shifts our entire focus from merely managing time to actually managing ourselves, prioritizing true long-term effectiveness over short-term efficiency.
Moving on to part 2, mastering quadrant 2. If you take only one single thing away from this whole discussion, let it be this core concept. Welcome to quadrant 2. This is that magic space of tasks that are important but not urgent. We're talking about long-term planning, relationship building, preventative maintenance, deep personal growth. But because these things aren't, screaming in our faces with strict deadlines, we tend to just push them off. We all suffer from what's called urgency addiction. Our brains are basically wired to respond to the ringing phone right in front of us, rather than actually doing the deep, focused work or hitting that gym session we know we need. But shifting your focus to this quadrant, that is the ultimate game changer. When you spend your time here, you actually prevent the crises that end up dominating your day. You finally free yourself from that exhausting cycle of urgent reactive management.
Now, to operate effectively in Quadrant 2, you've got to have the right system. The source material lays out 6 absolute non-negotiables for an effective tool. First up, coherence. Does your tool actually link your daily tasks to your overarching life mission? Second is balance. Are you crushing it at work but completely failing at home because your planner doesn't keep all your roles in view? Third is focus. Does your system encourage deep planning or just crisis management? Fourth, a people dimension. Sure, you can optimize your time for things, but are you staying flexible for the people in your life? Fifth is flexibility. Remember, the tool serves you. You don't serve the tool. And finally, portability. Can you easily take it with you so your plans are literally always right at your fingertips?
All right, part 3, 4 steps to weekly organizing. Weekly organizing is definitely the sweet spot. Daily planning is just way too narrow, and monthly is entirely too broad. So here is your actionable 4-step toolkit. Step 1, identify your roles for the upcoming week. You're an individual, a spouse, a parent, a project manager, whatever they are, get them out of your head and write them down. Step 2, select 1 or 2 really important Quadrant 2 goals for each of those specific roles. Step 3, schedule them. Put these big rocks into your week first before the everyday gravel of distractions fills up your calendar. And Step 4, daily adapting. Just take a few minutes each morning to review your schedule and adapt to unexpected changes. This is actually where Habit 1, being proactive, really comes into play. Unexpected things are absolutely going to happen, for sure. But you have the power to choose your response. You aren't a victim of your schedule, you are actively shaping it.
Notice how your big, long-term life goals don't just sit gathering dust on a shelf somewhere. They dynamically, directly inform your weekly schedule. This is exactly where Habit 2, begin with the end in mind, physically meets your calendar. Your personal mission statement dictates your roles, which in turn dictate your goals. From there, those goals inform your plans, which finally translate into your day-to-day schedule. This just proves that true effectiveness isn't about working harder or checking off more boxes as fast as you can. It's about making absolutely sure your ladder is leaning against the right wall before you even start climbing.
Time to scale up. Part 4. The power of delegation. It is time to seriously multiply our impact. Let's look at the fundamental difference between a producer and a manager. For a producer, 1 unit of input equals exactly 1 unit of output. If you want more results, you personally have to put in more hours, and there is a hard physical limit to that. But for a manager, the dynamic changes entirely through the use of a lever. By shifting the fulcrum, which means using effective delegation, 1 unit of input can suddenly yield 10, 50, or even 100 units of output. Delegation isn't just some clever trick to avoid doing your own work. It is the absolute core of effective management and exponential personal growth.
But hey, not all delegation is created equal. Most people get stuck in the trap of what we call gopher delegation. You know the drill. Go for this, go for that, do this exactly how I say it, and report back the exact second it's done. It focuses 100% on methods. Think about how exhausting that actually is. It requires constant, draining micromanagement. It doesn't save you time at all, it just turns you into a frustrated supervisor of tiny little tasks. Instead, we have to shift to stewardship delegation. Stewardship delegation focuses entirely on results. You say, look, here's what we need to achieve, here are the resources you have, I completely trust you to figure out the best way to get it done. It empowers people, it taps into their creativity, and most importantly, it frees you up to get back to your Quadrant 2 work.
Now, to make stewardship delegation actually work in the real world, you absolutely must establish 5 pillars right up front. First, clear desired results. You need a mutual, crystal clear understanding of exactly what needs to be accomplished. Once that's set, you move to guidelines. You aren't giving them a step-by-step manual, but you do need to point out the parameters and any known pitfalls. Basically, tell them what not to do, but let them figure out the how. Next, resources. Be very clear about the human, financial, or technical support they can actually use. Following that is accountability. Set up the specific standards and exact times when progress will be evaluated. And finally, consequences. Spell out what happens, good or bad, based on that evaluation. When these 5 pillars are totally clear, you aren't managing the person anymore. They're managing themselves against the agreement.
And that brings us to Part 5, Stewardship Delegation in Action.
To make this super concrete, let's look at this fantastic anecdote from the source material about the author delegating yard work to his 7-year-old son. He knew gopher delegation would be a total nightmare, so he focused entirely on that first pillar, desired results. He actually visually anchored the concept by taking his son across the street to look at a neighbor's absolutely pristine yard. He pointed at it and just said, "Look how green and clean that is." He established exactly what green and clean meant. Green meant it was watered, and clean meant all the trash was picked up. But notice what he didn't do. He intentionally didn't tell his son how to water it or when to pick up the trash. He just made sure the vision of the final result was perfectly clear in the kid's mind.
Now, let's see how this builds into ultimate empowerment. During this training, the father actually told his son, once we agree to this, I don't boss you anymore. You're the boss. But I'm your helper. You tell me what to do, and if I have time, I'll help you out. I mean, that is just brilliant. This specific dialogue masterfully shifts the accountability directly to the child. It proves that true delegation isn't about dictating tasks, it's about transferring ownership. By giving his son ownership, the father is actually expanding the son's circle of influence, tying right back into Habit 1. And guess what? It worked. The kid stepped up. He started picking up trash, managing the yard himself, and feeling that immense pride of true stewardship.
So, we come back to you. The private victory is really only as good as its execution. By mastering Quadrant 2 and leveraging stewardship delegation, you stop reacting to the world and you start actively designing your life. I want to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. Which Quadrant 2 activity or which stewardship delegation conversation are you going to implement this week? Stop just managing your time. Start actually leading your life. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you